networking, referrals, strategies for success, and real-life stories from professionals who are building a business based on relationship marketing. Welcome to the CirrusNet podcast. Here, you'll learn how to stay connected in the local business community and become that person others get to know, like, and trust, and refer to. And now, your host, CirrusNet founder, Steven Zyskowski.
So welcome to the CirrusNet podcast. I have with me today Barbara Zinser from the Charles Reinhardt Company. Barbara has been a fantastic real estate agent on our team in Ann Arbor, an Ann Arbor 1 O'Clock team. I believe she's been with us for about 7 years approximately now. And Barbara was also our team MVP last year. So kind of a cool thing about this interview is, I always have great guests, but it's nice to be working with a member that really has that mindset, does all those things where other members really value them, and that is Barbara Zinser. So Barbara, welcome to the CirrusNet podcast. Glad you're here today.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Well, let's jump back in time really quick before we jump into the meat and potatoes of who you are and what you do and how you're making the world a better place. I do like to retrace just a little bit on how you first heard about CirrusNet. So can you go back in time just a little bit and let us know who it was that told you about CirrusNet and how that happened in a snapshot?
Okay. Way back in time, here we go. It was 2014. So it's a little bit longer than you might think. But then again, I was in 2 groups. I started off in a 1030 group in Ann Arbor, and it was located at the bank that I do business with, which is now Huntington, used to be TCF. And the sandwich board type of advertising was out front. And it said, "Are you interested in learning more about referrals and having a referral business?" And I'm like, yeah, I want to know what that is. And I knew the branch manager. And so I went over to, his name was Dave, went to Dave and I said, "What's that about?" And he said, "Oh, come with me." And he walked me right in to meet Steve for the very first time, who gave me an overview and invited me to come to one of the meetings, which I did. I absolutely loved it, but I'm in an industry which is really in demand. And so I had to wait for the right opportunity to open. And that's what happened. Thankfully, it didn't take too terribly long before that opened, but I've been in ever since. And it's what I do.
Well, so we'll say thank you to Dave Norton. We'll be sure I send him a copy of this so he can stroll down memory lane along with you and know that his goodwill and good efforts are still appreciated today.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. Let's talk about you now, Barbara. Maybe you can paint a picture for our viewing audience about who Barbara Zinser is and what's your specialty? Who do you really like working with? Because you're a real estate agent out of the Ann Arbor area. So you take it from there.
Yeah, I am a real estate agent located in Ann Arbor, but that is far from the only place that I actually help people to buy and sell real estate. So I have been in Howell, I've been in Dexter, Chelsea, Ypsilanti, Manchester, Onstead. And so there's just a number of places, Livonia, and I go to where people need me. And that's essentially how it happens. I may get a floor call from somebody that I don't know, but so much of my business now is referral business. And so I've been in business now long enough, 16 years as a matter of fact, that the clientele that I've established, they're either maybe on their second home, or they're just now starting, and sometimes they're first home time buyers, or they're downsizing. And, what I love about real estate is the fact that it is a life event. And so from, first leaving your parents' home, going into your first rental, perhaps an apartment, then finding the love of your life, then, going and getting your first home, and then starting the family, and then, getting into a bigger home, and then life takes turns. And so on an upturn, people are looking for bigger and better homes. on a downturn, they're looking for something smaller and more modest that they can handle. And so, I just embrace all of life, and I embrace where that client is at that moment in time and what they need from me.
Yeah, and you're really one of the things that I'll comment on, Barbara, is that my strongest teams usually have a strong real estate agent, a strong insurance agent, a strong financial advisor, and a strong mortgage person. The teams that don't have real strong people in those capacities, I'm talking about strong, I'm talking relationship strong, people that, are going to give you that extra energy and keep you in mind. And you're on one of those teams, and you're one of those agents that you really do try to get to know other people on your team. So let's talk about your SiriusNet experience a little bit, just to try to help other members with their experience. Did you get a referral for real estate at your first meeting that you attended, or did it take you a little while to build some relationships and get your first referral? Do you remember what your first referral was? You've had a few of them.
I'm sorry to say, no, I don't, but I can tell you that I have helped a number of people in my very own group. And so, they themselves had needs. So I have helped them, but it did not happen immediately. So I had to build confidence. People had to know, like, and trust me and understand that the things that I stood for and the things that I believed in, that they could believe in too. And that they would feel comfortable giving my name and my business card to someone that they know and that they have a relationship with.
Yeah, and you've got some synergistic relationships also on your SiriusNet team. I think that I've been witness to a strong relationship between you and the banker on the team. Did you want to elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, we had Sherry Good, who has now moved on, but you know what? I did a trust builder with Beth Ping, and Beth Ping is sharp. I'm telling you, I like her, and I think she and I would be a good pair for one another. Her helping where financing is needed, and me helping, to locate the home of somebody's dream. So, and let's not forget Heidi Kusarellis. You got to have homeowners insurance. And so I love working with Heidi. And so you're right, there's a core, and it's very easy to share referrals back and forth within the group.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing. Let me ask you another question then too. So, not everybody approaches business the same way. I think that, in your business as a perfect example, there might be some real estate agents that do different types of marketing or different types of advertising to try to get their name out there. I'm sure not all of them are part of a SiriusNet team or a BNI or something else. So how is it that you see being in a business team like this has a benefit to you and a benefit to your clients?
Well, because I have a roster of people that I can refer to. So if someone has a need, a client that I'm working with says, gee, could you refer me to someone, to help me declutter my home? Yep, I have someone for that. Well, you know what? There's a lot of junk that's got to come out. Oh, I've got somebody for that as well. I've got a computer that needs to be looked at. I have someone. And so, you know what? And here's the other thing, Steve, is that because of the fact that you have multiple groups, if my group does not have that service provider in it, for a fact, I come to you and I say, who beyond, my one group, do you know that would be a good referral partner? And so, I use it to the extent I think networking is key.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do, all the right things. I think that one of the things we can't control in life is when people do business with us. We can't force that, right? But what we can do, like you have done, Barbara, is plant wonderful seeds with people over and over again. So they just trust you so much and like you so much, they almost wish that they wanted to sell their house just to do business with you, but nobody's going to do that. But when they are ready, maybe somebody like Chef Kathy or other Carl Gunderson or other folks, you're like right at the top of the list for them to reach out to. And what's that conversation like with like a member that hasn't been a member in a little while and you get that phone call? You must enjoy knowing that what you're doing today is planting a seed for business coming a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. Give me your take on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you had a fine example there with Chef Kathy. And Chef Kathy, was not part of our group for a while. She was in, and then, she had moved out. And but she still remembered me. And I was thrilled when she called. And she said, "Boy, I have to tell you, I have a neighbor behind me who really needs your help. And I've given your card and I've told them you need to call Barbara." And so, I wound up, I met with the family, and it was a wonderful match. And I was able to get that resolved for them. The owner had owned the home. She was now in her 90s and needed to go to an assisted living facility. And so, I was able to make sure that her home got sold, that the heirs to her estate were involved in everything that happened. Everybody knew everything that was going on. There were no secrets. And I showed them that I had a process. This is how we're going to start. This is what it's going to look like. These are the steps we're going to follow. And they really, really appreciated that. Yeah, as I do when I'm looking for a service provider. I want to know, what does the road ahead look like? What can you paint for me so that I'm not always wondering what's next? Because I don't like that personally. I like to feel confident that I'm making good decisions along the way, and that I can feel that I'm in good hands.
Especially with the big transaction, like handling somebody's home. I mean, you definitely get, when you're called into the picture, you're not there to do something small for them. And I think the other thing that you've really paid attention to is, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you become more to your clients than they're expecting? And yeah, it's being prepared, it's taking control, being a great communicator, being a great resource. It's all of those things wrapped up together, plus being very pleasant and friendly to be around. I think that really, I'm sure that this neighbor thanked Chef Kathy, and it's probably not the last referral you're going to get from her, and probably get a referral from the neighbor as well. Well, I appreciate this conversation with you. And as we kind of wind it down just a little bit, I really also appreciate wisdom. And, we all get knowledge all the time. We get knowledge just jumping on the internet, reading articles we're interested in. And we can get knowledge from taking a course, but we get wisdom by putting our knowledge into action, right? And then seeing how things actually work. And then we get the wisdom, right? So you're somebody who's very wise when it comes to having a positive CirrusNet experience, whether it's just been that way for you or you've made it that way for yourself. So I always like to ask, because everybody's on a little bit of a different journey in CirrusNet. And, new members, they come in with the eyes bright and they're excited to be part of a group. And, you hope they get a referral and start getting some traction, but it might take a little while. But everybody's in a little bit of a different place. So I always like to ask members that have been around for a while, and that includes you, an MVP member, that includes you. What kind of advice would you have for somebody let's say you had a trust builder with a brand new member right now, and they go, "Geez, Barbara, if there was any one thing that I should do in CirrusNet, what would that be according to your advice?"
Oh, let me tell you, I've got this, Steve. I have got this nailed. Number one, participate. You want to be active. You want to show up, and participate. You want to get involved in the things that are going. You want to, reply to people. There's someone else that's talking about their business. You want to engage. You want to be a good listener. Absolutely. And you want to be a good referral partner. So if you're a good listener, you're listening for opportunities that you can then send business to that colleague, that CirrusNet colleague that you have. And so those are the pointers: participate, show up, be engaging, be a good listener, and pass referrals.
Yeah, and that is great advice, and it really is kind of that simple because again, everybody comes into this with a little different perspective. Sometimes people come into SiriusNet, they already have a client base. They already, have a way of getting clients, and the reason they joined was to get better at referral language, to meet other like-minded people, and to be a resource to them. But some people come in and if they don't get right away, there's a little bit of discouragement. So I think that you're being interested in other people. Dale Carnegie has a quote that says you can make more friends in 30 days by becoming interested in other people than you can in 1 year by trying to get people interested in you. And
Mm.
I think that's one thing that you've done a wonderful job of, is that you're one of the people that I think very quickly reaches out to a new member first that's joined onto the team and you want to go meet them. Why? Well, so they know right away you're interested in building a relationship with them, that you're just not there for yourself. But I think you also really like to know the story of a person and how they got involved in what they're doing. How is having trust builders that early in the relationship work for you?
Well, again, it gets me to understand better what that person is like and the type of business that they have. So I can immediately start thinking, who do I know? Who could be a support to this person? Or who am I working with right now that might have an immediate need for that type of service? So those are the things that I like. But, I mean, I'm just the type of person that if you're new, I want to reach out. And that not only extends to someone new coming into SiriusNet, it's someone new moving into the community, it's someone new moving into Michigan. I mean, if you are new, I want to be the person that can help you get adjusted, acclimated, and start to feel more comfortable in this new place. Because I have to say, being new is not always fun. It sounds like it. New sounds good, but it's awkward. It's awkward coming into a group that already exists, and it's awkward coming into a community where you don't know where things are. And so, I just really have a soft spot in my heart for that. And so, yeah, you're right. I do reach out to new members to welcome them.
Yeah, and I appreciate that so much too, because what you're doing is describing the absolute right behaviors and intentions that a SiriusNet member should have, right? I mean, you want to be interested in other people and you want to be interesting yourself. Well, be interested in other people. And all of a sudden they
Mhm.
start going, well, Barbara, you spent so much time talking, us talking about me. Tell me about you. And they're eager to learn. So I just think that you've got a beautiful approach. Barbara Zinser, Charles Reinhardt Company in Ann Arbor. Thank you so much for all of your years of giving and goodness. I know you've had a chance to receive any other final words that you would want to have as we wrap up our podcast.
No, I guess what I want to say is thank you to you because this was a business that I didn't even know existed. And, you just run it with such smoothness and it runs like a well-oiled machine. And I did look, and I will share this. I looked at other facilitators and I came right back and I said, for me, you were the right fit for me. Not to say that there isn't somebody else that's great out there. And you mentioned that there are several facilitators that are out there. But, for me at that moment, for what I saw and what I heard, your group that I attached myself to was the best fit for me. And so thank you for creating this wonderful business. And as you said, there's been thousands of referrals passed. So we all grow and we all benefit from what you've started.
Okay, well, thank you so much for those wonderful, wonderful compliments. I appreciate that very much. And the hope and goal is to keep this machine rolling so we can keep building those relationships, keep referring each other, and you'll keep building that sense of community that's so important to all of us, having that sense of belonging and mattering to other people. So, Barbara Zinser, Charles Reinhardt Company, thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
My pleasure. Bye, Steve.